Kip, what's up, brother? Great to see you, man. I hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to getting back into the week and getting after it. I woke up pretty motivated. You know how when those days where you wake up and you're like, ugh, I don't want to do
Yeah,
anything today. And then you have those other days which are like, all right, I'm ready to grab life
I'm
by the
excited.
balls and like get after the day. So that's where I'm at right now. So looking forward to having this conversation to
Hey,
kick things
dude,
off.
I just want some of that. So go ahead and share as much of that as you'd like. I woke up the opposite, like, I don't want
Yeah.
to go to the gym. I don't want to go to the office. I don't know what I want to do, to be frank. I zero motivation this morning. So
What do
I'll take
you
some of yours.
what do you do on days like that? Because we have them, they're inevitable, and you still have things to do. You got to go to the office. Your family still requires your attention. What do you personally do on days like that?
Still go to the gym, still go to the office.
Mm,
Although I was thinking about this morning, I heard something yesterday. I actually read something yesterday while at church. And for whatever reason, I've heard this before. I'm sure you've heard this idea that things don't get easier, we just get better. And I'm like, oh, that's great. That's a nice statement. And I've heard it 100 times, but for whatever reason, yesterday I was like, it connected, and it connected in the way because I keep having expectations that things shouldn't be the way they are. I keep
mm.
going, well, I'm going to bust ass and circumstances are going to change. And I think they shouldn't be. And it blocks me from dealing in reality. And what I should be saying in that morning or in those days is, I'm going to be better today. And that's how I address circumstances. I don't hope for them to be better. My hope is in me showing up more powerfully. And I don't know, that was present to me this morning. I thought, man, I need to ponder on that more often because that's where I get sideways, to be honest with you. It's life isn't the way I think it should be, and I make it wrong. And then I get wrapped up into that expectation versus saying, okay, well, it is what it is, Kip. So now what are you going to do about it? And how
Yeah,
can you show up powerfully regardless of those circumstances?
that's awesome. Yeah, a couple of things stood out as you were saying that. One, a quote came to mind. This is attributed to John F. Kennedy. He says, "Do not pray for easier lives. Pray to be stronger men." I always like that
Yeah,
quote. And then the
I
other
like
thing
that
I
a
wrote
lot.
down here this is along the same lines as what you're talking about. I've had this thought run through my mind lately, and that is solve better problems.
Hmm.
So, for example, the mortgage payment shouldn't be a problem for you. Now, it might for a lot of guys listening, it might.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you shouldn't fret over that. You should. But there comes a point in time where making the car payment or making the mortgage payment, that's no longer a concern, which is great because it doesn't make life easier. It gives you the opportunity to solve better problems. Now I don't have to worry about the mortgage being paid. Now I can worry about starting a business that serves tens, if not hundreds of thousands of men or whoever your clientele is. So I'm always looking for ways to, yes, address the problems I'm dealing with, but I don't want a lack of problems in my life. I want better problems to solve.
Totally. Well, and Asia and I were just talking about this literally last week. We were just kind of both stressed, and I said, you know what? I don't know if shit's getting any easier, right? Like I thought as we'd get older, it maybe get easier. And it absolutely is not any easier. In fact, I would say the stakes are higher. The repercussions of our decisions, whether good or bad, are just greater than they've ever been.
Yeah.
And that's it. And as we've improved, the stakes get higher. And as we get better parents, the stakes get higher, and they just keep getting higher, right? And it's like, man, maybe we should stop focusing on, waiting for an easy life and just realize, hey, this is the game. And this is how we continue growing, right? By taking on bigger problems, to your point, versus, staying passive or playing small, maybe say it that way.
Well, and you said taking on bigger problems, and I don't even think that's necessarily the case. I say better problems because I think there's a lot more intentionality about which problems you choose to shoulder.
Hmm.
For
Yeah.
example, I have people reach out every single week, probably even daily at this point, that say, "Oh, Ryan, you should do this. You should talk about this. You should address this. You should do that." Look, if you're giving me a suggestion that's in the vein of what we do, I'm not saying I don't want your suggestions. I do. But I'm also
But
saying,
they're
hey, if you
passionate
see
about
that
it
being an
first.
issue,
Yeah.
take that upon yourself. You do that. And I'll help and I'll support and I'll talk about it. But I would love to see more guys have an issue with something in the world or whatever, and then
Yeah.
start solving it for themselves. And I'm here to support. If I can do something that will help you, spread the word, get the message out, whatever, I can do that. But I want people to take on those problems they feel like are better problems to be solving.
Yeah. I've heard this. Someone told me years ago that everyone has problems. You might as well choose yours and choose something big.
Yeah.
And 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 I think that is so true. Like, I don't know about you, Ryan, but I have people in my life that unfortunately for them don't have anything going on for them. But if you go talk to them, they have problems.
Yeah.
They got all kinds of problems. It's almost like it's part of the human condition to have problems. And the difference is their problems are being like they're acting upon them. They're all these things outside their realm of control. They're not doing anything about it. They're victims to them. So they're highly disempowered about them. Versus, to your point, you don't like something, you see a gap, make it your problem. And it's kind of interesting when we do that. All that other kind of noise problems, those low hanging, those problems that we used to have end up not becoming problems anymore.
Right. Right.
Because
I
we
remember when I
tackle something
started,
bigger.
I remember when I started Order of Man, I had people who would say, "Oh, that's not a thing. We don't need that. That's not a problem." Well, maybe you don't see it as a problem, which is why you're not doing anything about it. But I
Yeah.
see it as a problem. And so, yeah, and as far as looking for problems, I think humans we are problem searcher. We are looking for problems. It's a defense mechanism.
Yeah. It's
You
how
know,
we
it's
create safety.
right.
Yeah.
It's why you're driving down the road, and what are you doing? If you're paying attention and not on your phone, you're scanning, right? You're looking left to right. You're checking your side view mirrors, your rear view mirror. You're looking in front of you, anticipating things because you don't want to get hit by another car that's hurling down the road at 80 miles an hour. And that's what we do in life is we're looking for problems, and too many people, they just avoid them. Imagine doing that down on the road. You see a car in front of you swerving around, and you're like, "Oh, that shouldn't be an issue," and you just kind of ignore it. Like, no, you're looking for problems, you're looking for solutions, you're anticipating what could go wrong, and we don't bury our heads in the sand when we see it. We actively engage with whatever that is, and then we adjust our course as necessary. Anyways,
Yeah.
let's move on to some questions. We got a lot of good questions today. I want to make sure we get to.
Yeah, we're going to first field some questions from the Iron Council. To learn more about the IC, orderofman.com/Iron Council. We'll talk about the Battle Ready program before we wrap up today. Our first question, Regan
Sorry,
Hufner. Yeah, no worries.
hacking up a
Hopefully
lung
they
over
caught me
here.
yakking versus you sneezing. Was that a
Jeez.
sneeze or a hack?
No, I was hacking up a lung over here, man.
Oh, okay. All right, Regan Hufner. Consistency is one, if not the most important trait to have in just about any pursuit. What are some of the best ways to strengthen and improve this trait?
This is a funny question, purely because the best way to be consistent is to be consistent. The answer is the question. And you
Yeah.
said it great when we kicked off the meeting. I said, "What do you do on days you don't feel like going?" You said, "Well, I still go to the office. I still go to the gym." That's how you do it. You make a deliberate and conscious decision that regardless of how you feel in any given moment, because that's fleeting, you're going
Yeah.
to do what you said you're going to do. And in the spirit of the question, I also suggest you make that decision ahead of time. So going to the gym is a great example. I slept in past my alarm today, but so I didn't go to the gym this morning, but I made a
That's why
commitment
you're
to go to
feeling
the
great.
gym. I know. Yeah. Well, no, that's not. I thought you were going to say something else. You caught me off guard with that. That's actually, I'm feeling great in spite of that,
In spite
but
of not going to the gym.
of not going to the gym. But I made a commitment to it. And so I looked at my calendar for today. When this is done, I'm already ready to go. Like I got my
Ready.
stuff on. Like all I have to do is take my hat off. I got my drink in the fridge. It's cold right now. And I already know what the workout is. I'm going in right after we get done with this discussion. No excuses. Yes, I woke up late. That's not really an excuse because it's not keeping me from doing it. It's just the reason I didn't get to the gym yet. And so I'm going to go anyways. So I would suggest that if you're having issues with consistency, you do two things: make decisions before the moment, because you're going to get tired, you're going to get lazy, you're going to feel sick, you're going to whatever, you're going to come up with all these reasons why you can't do it. And then the other thing that I would suggest, and this is shared quite a bit by James Clear in his book Atomic Habits, you want to grease the grooves. So you want to make sure that it's as seamless as possible to do what you said you're going to do. And for example, if you said, hey, I'm going to take my wife out on a date every single week and we're going to do this, then in order to be consistent with that, you have to have a regularly planned day. So maybe every Thursday night or Saturday morning or whatever works for you. And it's booked, it's in the calendar. Another thing you might consider is having multiple babysitters that you can call on a given notice, just in case one can't make it. You can pick up another one. Maybe even have her on quote unquote retainer, where every Thursday night she's yours and she knows that, and she comes over at whatever time and watches the kids. Making sure their homework gets done, making sure there's groceries, making sure the sitter knows how to cook for them, put them to bed, whatever your thing is. You want to make sure all of that is streamlined to eliminate the excuses, eliminate the reasons, anticipate, like we were talking before, about problems that may arise before they even come up. And I feel like if you make decisions beforehand and you grease the grooves, you're going to have a much easier time staying consistent. And the counter to that, with what James Clear talks about in his book Atomic Habits, is you want to create friction for the things that you don't want to do. So a great example of that is if somebody's trying to quit drinking, a little way to create some friction is to get rid of all the alcohol in the house. Now, if you want to drink, you got to get in your car, you got to drive down to wherever, you got to pick up your drink, you got to come home. There's sometimes that's enough friction to keep you from making that decision that you know you don't want to make. So that's what I would suggest for consistency.
Yeah. What would you say to this? I remember I used to do like P90X. Do you remember that guy?
I do, yeah.
Horton, or I can't remember his name.
Remember.
He always has like funny statements, right? He's like, tip of the day, don't smash your face when he's like doing these, tricep extensions. And one thing he says a lot, he says, do your best, forget the rest. Just let go of it. Let go of the story. Let go of everything. Just do your best. And for whatever reason, that allows me to be consistent sometimes, because I get in my own way about how it's going to go. Oh, this is not going to work. I'm not going to have a good workout. I'm too tired. I won't be able to get my reps in. Like I come up with all these stories of how it's going to go that almost deters me from actually doing it. And I like that statement of just do your best. That's it. Just show up. Just go. Don't worry about how it's going to go. Don't worry about anything else. Just show up and do your best with whatever you are, wherever you're at. And that allows me to get a little bit more consistent. So maybe there's just a little bit of, when you get in your own head, or the minute, and I've actually even had this thought in the past of, the minute I start excusing, that's when you just act. Yeah. That's how that's the trigger of you're about to be out of integrity, is the minute of, well, and then you're like, no, that's out of integrity already. If I have to excuse it, that means I should just do it.
I like that. I also think what that hits on, Kip, is the perfection paralysis, I guess I'd call it, where everything has to be perfect. And if it isn't perfect, then you won't do it at all. An example of that, when I was doing financial planning, I'd have clients where I'd tell them, here's how we can get you out of debt, or here's how we can save for you. Here's how much money you should be investing. And let's just say, hypothetically, their plan called for an investment of $1,000 per month into various investment accounts. Every once in a while, quite often actually, I'd get clients who would say, I can't really do $1,000 a month. I'm like, we'll get there. Like, what if we started with 300 or 400 or 500 or whatever? And they're like, well, I can't. Yeah, I could probably do a couple hundred, but until I can do 1,000, like, I'm not really going to do anything. Like, you would be surprised how often I hear that. Like, things aren't going to get better until you start doing them. And this is that perfection paralysis, where we think, oh man, I'm not really feeling it, so I won't get as good a workout at the gym today. I'm off my game. So like, maybe I'll just call in sick at work. I'm not feeling up to it. I'm tired from the day. And so maybe I'll just tell Hun, rain check, we'll go out to dinner another night. Guys, everything doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes going through the motions is enough. And one of our senior leadership guys, Alan Placer in Iron Council, often talks, and I scoffed at this initially when he said this, and he says this a lot: celebrate the small wins. I'm like, I don't, what, celebrate I got out of bed? Celebrate I went to the gym? That shit we should all be doing anyways. But he kept saying this over and over again. I'm like, no, you know what? Yeah, I don't need to make a Facebook post about it or throw myself a little party every time I get out of bed on time. But I can tell myself, good job, man. You didn't feel like it today, but you went in anyways. It wasn't awesome. On a scale of 10, the workout was maybe a 6, but you feel like a 2. So that's a win. Good job.
Boy.
And I think we can tell ourselves that a little bit more. And then the other thing I would say, Kip, is after the fact, when you fail in consistency, you have to get back on the horse as soon as possible. We all know that analogy. You fall off the horse or you fall off the bike. If you're teaching your daughter how to ride her bike and you finally take the training wheels off and she falls and scrapes her knee, do you say, hey, let's pick it up tomorrow? Like, let's do it tomorrow.
Or put the training wheels back on. Yeah.
No, you say, hey, you know what, hon? Like, oh yeah, that hurts. Let's wipe you off, dust it off. Say, let's get back on. Let's do it right now. Let's do it right now. And that's what I would suggest to anybody who falls off the wagon. Fix it immediately. Here's what guys will do. Yeah, I'm on this diet and I'm on this program right now and it's going really well, but man, I ate like dog shit for lunch. And so I'll just screw it. The rest of the day, I'll just eat whatever I want. That's loser mentality. I'm not saying loser is in your worth. I'm saying that's what losers do. If you want to lose in life, get derailed and then compound the problem by justifying your continued poor choices by your previous derailment. No, just, hey, you know what? Yeah, I ate more than I should have at lunch. So, maybe I'll skim back on dinner. That's a winner mindset. Yeah. Not, hey, I'll just skip screw it. It's like, hey, maybe I just won't eat dinner tonight. That's what a winner would do. And so if you want to win, get back on the horse as quickly as possible and get back to your point earlier of in integrity with yourself.
Totally. Ironic enough, left knee, little wobbly, kind of acted weird over the weekend because I played some pickleball on Saturday and it felt kind of odd,
You should not hurt yourself in pickleball, but I have too. And it's sad as old men that we're getting hurt, man. Anyways, keep going.
But you know how it is? Knee seems loose, right? And I'm like, and I got legs today, Monday leg day. Don't ask why I do that. So Monday leg day, and I totally crossed my mind this morning. My knees kind of loose. I probably shouldn't go do legs, and just went anyway. Probably the best leg day I've had for about a month. I could barely leave the building. Yeah, I had to go down the stairs holding 2 hands on the rail. I'm like, my thighs are just rock hard, just swollen. I'm like, man, felt good. And I thought, look at that, man. I wasn't even planning on going.
Right.
Wuss. Ended up being a great workout. I felt great. And so now it's not always going to be that way. But my point being, just extending on what you're saying, sometimes just showing up's the win. And then sometimes it ends up being even better than what we even thought it was going to be. And we end up better off regardless of whether it ends up being the best PR day or not. We don't know what we don't know. So,
yeah.
All right. Kyle, Christian, how do you recover from burnout? I thought this question was interesting, by the way. So he says, recover from burnout. Then he says, what are some ways to combat imposter syndrome when taking on a moonshot goal? Note basic stuff of life, but how to deal with it when we are doing something bigger than we have ever done before. So maybe Ryan, explain moonshot first, and then maybe hop into the question.
Yeah. So Mike Massimino, former NASA astronaut, came on the podcast about a month and a half to 2 months ago. And we decided to incorporate his book Moonshot into our Iron Council monthly topic, which is Shoot for the Moon. And we're talking about goal setting, goal planning, achieving our goals, figuring out what resources we need, and really trying to move ourselves forward to our goals and ambitions. I'm not sure if these questions are correlated. Do you think they are, Kip? Or are
Well,
they
it's
completely
interesting.
separate questions?
I I think he's illustrating the same. I just thought it was interesting he threw in imposter syndrome as something that generates burnout. Now, I
That's kind of
actually,
how I
now
look
that
at it.
me too, but I kind of love it. And I love it because a Dale Carnegie quote, which I completely love, and I reference probably way too often, is that most burnout is not in the work, but in the feelings of worry, frustration, and resentment. AKA, when people feel burnt out, it's not that they're working so many hours. It's something, it's their impression of the work that they're doing. And so maybe Kyle's suggesting that, like, hey, burnout is maybe a result of having imposter syndrome when having a big goal, like a moonshot goal.
Yeah, that's
But maybe I'm,
interesting.
yeah, it is interesting if that's what he's
The
saying.
if people don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's feeling like you're not worthy of whatever you're chasing because you're not that person. So if you want to run a marathon, you're like, oh, I'm a poser, right? That's another word for it. That's
Yeah,
what we
don't believe
used
you
when we
can
were
do
kids. You're a
it.
poser,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it creates a lot of self-doubt towards your goals and accomplishments. Look, I don't get it. I don't get imposter syndrome. Not, when I say that, what I say is I don't understand it and I don't get it personally. It's not something I deal with. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an imposter. Like, I'm not telling people I'm God's gift to whatever activity I'm engaged in. I don't believe that. I just
Yeah.
believe I'm on the path. If it's something as simple as running a marathon, like, I don't believe I'm going to break the world record for a marathon, but I don't have any
I'm a
problem
guy.
going, running and saying, yeah, I'm going to run a marathon. Like, there's no disconnect for me. If, for example, if I'm going to write a book and I've written a couple, like, I don't feel like I'm unworthy of writing a book. I know I'm capable of writing a book, and I'm not telling myself something different than the reality of the situation, but I'm a published author. That's a fact. So I don't know
So
why we get into this thing of like, I'm not worthy. I'm not. Who says you have to be? Like, why are you putting
is
that
it,
on yourself? I don't understand it. Help me understand.
yeah, is it because, let's use the book as an example, because I think some people would see that as a moonshot for them, right? It's like, man, writing a book, that means something. Now, you obviously 100% believe that that's within your realm of control. You don't doubt you can do it, and thus your confidence is high. Is the imposter syndrome is the result of, if Bob says, hey, I'm going to write a book, that's an ambitious idea for him, but he really doesn't believe that he's capable. He really doesn't believe, but it sounds nice as a goal, right? And thus he has imposter syndrome versus you're like, no, I broke this down. This is a logical process. I'm going to write so many words, per week on a repetitive basis. And I'm going to be a published, writer. It's that simple. But everyone else, their confidence level is just so low that they don't even think that's possible for them.
Well, that's the
And thus they
problem.
get imposter syndrome.
I think that's the problem. You feel like you need to be confident. You've never written a book. Why should you be confident in writing a book?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's what I think. Anybody who suffers
Yeah.
from imposter syndrome, and I'm not trying to beat people up. I know this is something
Yeah.
they deal
Yeah.
with. I'm trying to give them a
Yeah.
different
This is good to
perspective.
flush out. Yeah.
But anybody who deals with imposter syndrome is not being humble. It's actually excessive hubris. It's hubris. It's arrogant. Most people think, well, no, I'm humble. Like, I don't feel that good about myself. And so that's why I have imposter syndrome. No, you're being arrogant. Let me explain. You think you deserve something better than you currently have. Just what? Because? Like, you think, like, if I said, if I had imposter syndrome and I felt like I should be on the New York Times bestseller list, but I'm not because, like, I'm not good enough. Right. Bingo. You're not good enough. Now, that's not meant to deflate. It just means you need to do something that New York Times bestselling authors do. That's it. So when it comes to writing a book, people say, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. Well, yeah, what gives you the right to think you should? You never did it before.
Thus the imposter.
And the arrogance. Who are
Yeah.
you to believe that you should have the result of something that you didn't earn? I think humility crushes imposter syndrome, because now it's, you know what? Yeah, I don't think I'm good enough. Then I'm not talking about false humility. I'm talking about actual humility, which is this. Yeah, I don't know if I can do this, but damn if I don't try.
Yeah.
Damn if I don't wake up today and get 1,000 words under my belt, or buy a course, or read some material on how to write better, or, you know, talk to somebody who's written a book and actually do something about it. And I think that is what helps you overcome imposter syndrome. Stop worrying about what you should and shouldn't have that you haven't earned yet. Now, you can have goals like, hey, if it's being on the New York Times bestselling list, cool. But that shouldn't be deflating. Now reverse engineer, exercise some humility, and we're not after confidence, guys. Confidence is just the result. What you need is courage. That's what people miss. When people want to start a business, or I hear from a lot of people who want to start a podcast, they'll ask me, I'm just not confident. Yeah. Why should you be? Have you ever done a podcast before? No. Why would you be confident about it then? You don't need confidence. You need courage. You need to act in the face of fear. And then through those actions and overcoming your fear and uncertainty and doubt and concern, you develop confidence. But that's a byproduct of the exhibited courage that's required.
What do you think about this? Someone writes a book. It's not that the goal is, I want to write a book. It's the story that goes with it, right? Well, I'm going to be an author, and I'll, maybe I'll be famous and I'll be well known. And it's all that other stuff versus, okay, I want to publish a book. This is what's required. Here's the tactical. And it's the arrogance that suggests all these other things that you're going to get out of it that you think you deserve, when in reality, it's not really the goal of just writing the book.
Well, I don't think that
do you get what I'm saying? Like they're latching on to the story of it, not the tactical goal itself.
I think that I was going to say, I like the shoulds, like that shouldn't be. I don't, if you hitting New York Times is a motivation of yours, I'm not going to say that shouldn't be the motivation. I just think it's inferior motivation. Because here's how I'd look at it. If you want to be on New York Times, how many books do you need to sell? I don't know the number to that, but let's just say it's 100,000. That's arbitrary. I don't know. You need to sell 100,000 in the first, 8 weeks. Again, I don't know, but let's just throw that as a number. It's not really about hitting the New York Times. It's about reaching 100,000 people with a message you think is important. To me, that's a significantly greater motive than I want to hit New York. New York Times is the byproduct of reaching 100,000 people in 8 weeks with a message that you feel is important, that you think is going to impact them in a positive way. That's the motive.
Yeah. Well, and if you feel the message is really important, it's like whether that's 1,000 or whether it's 500, it's like that's still important to you, right? If you're really committed to the message and making an impact.
Well, I was watching a show the other day. I started a new series. I think it's called For All Mankind, and it's a show. It starts with the space race to the moon with the Russians. And in the series, the Russians actually beat the Americans to the moon. And it kind of starts that way. And then what takes place and transpires from there. So I got thinking about this the other day, and we're talking again about Mike Massimino for the book Moonshot. Did Neil Armstrong, I don't know the answer to this, but did Neil Armstrong do what he did so he could be the first man on the moon? Or was it more about advancing technology and exploration and the discovery for all mankind? Was that the motive, or was being the first man on the moon the motive? Being the first man on the moon is just, it happens to be what it is in the pursuit of space exploration.
Greater.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think if we focus on that rather than title or the result, again, I believe that that's a superior motive. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. See that. All right, Louis Tyrone.
Oh, by
Who
the
are
way,
your
Kip,
top three? Okay, yeah,
sorry, one other thing. The first part of his question was recovering from burnout. Two
yeah.
things on that. If we have a superior motive, burnout becomes less relevant, I think. And then the other thing that I would suggest on that, really briefly, because I want to get to some other things here, is you can mix things up, but stay on the same course. So
Cross train.
again, if well, sure, yeah, as long as you're moving towards your objective. Again, another example, since we talked a lot about writing a book, is maybe you just push that chapter aside for a minute because you're like, ah, like I'm burned out, I'm tired, like this, like I'm creating inferior work. I don't really know. Go write a different chapter for a minute. We did early on 6 years ago, we had this event called Uprising, and it was 28 men would come in, and I think we did 3 or 4 of these. And I got tired of that particular event. I was like, I don't want to do that event anymore. It wasn't that events were wrong. It wasn't that I didn't want to advance what we're doing. It's like, I've done that. I got it. And so we created Legacy, which is a father son event. Very similar, but it's with fathers and sons. So we did that and had a lot of good times and things with that. Still advancing the mission, just doing something a little different. The cool thing is we're actually redoing Legacy now in a new way.
Uprising.
We have one,
Or
excuse me, Uprising, yes. And we have one coming up in May. It's May 2nd through the 5th. If you want to know about that, I think we have 7 or 8 spots. It's orderaman.com/uprising. But it's not that I got like completely deviated from the mission or just said, oh, I'm bored of that. I'm going to burn Order a Man to the ground now. I was like, okay, I don't want to do that. Let me do something else for now. That helps me because I tend to get distracted and I think I have to go in a completely different direction. No, you can go in the same direction, just doing different tactics. That's helped me personally.
yeah. Well, I think you enjoy the creativeness of coming up
Yeah.
with something new, right? And even if, because I loved Uprising when you when you choose not to do them again, I was like, are you crazy? They're like so awesome. I couldn't understand it, but I understand the idea of like, man, but I want to be creative. I want to try out something new. I want to evolve and not just do the same thing really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just part of your personality a little bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. And I think
cool.
I hear from a lot of people who get burned out and tired of things. I get it. The fact that we've done Order of Man for 9 years in March is a miracle for me.
Yeah.
Because I could have been, there's been times where I'm like, oh, again? What, 1,400 podcast? Another podcast? Yep.
That's true. That's a lot of
Because
podcasts.
every single week I talk with, outside of you and I having this conversation, I talk with completely different people every single week. And that keeps it exciting and refreshing for me. I get a little bored and stagnant with you, but the other guys, they keep me in the game.
Yep. All right. Louis Tyrone. Who are your top 3 to 5 bucket list guests talking about podcasts?
Yeah.
Who you have not already had on the podcast? Are you taking actionable steps to get them on? I think this ties into the moonshot discussion that we're having in the Iron Council.
I saw this question. I wanted to come prepared. So I wrote down a couple of people that immediately came to mind. Number one, Jordan Peterson. And we've had him scheduled 2 or 3 times and just haven't secured it, even though they've been scheduled. Very frustrating, but I think we'll get that. I think we'll make that happen. You know, and I've talked about this in the Iron Council because the other one that came to mind is Andrew Huberman. I call it unnecessary intellectualism. And I see this trend of like Andrew Huberman, Jordan Peterson, those two, they're intellects.
Yeah.
And every time I subscribe to their podcast, I don't always listen. I think there's great information, and I think they do a phenomenal job backing up what everybody already knows, anyways. And I think some people need that. Like Andrew Huberman will do a podcast for 3 hours on why sleep is important. We already know that sleep's important, but some of us need the reason and the data and everything else behind it. Some of us need an excuse, and it's mental gymnastics and mental masturbation rather than just getting your sleep and getting your nutrition, your exercise. You spend a bunch of inordinate amounts of time learning about it, but they are intriguing. The thing I like about Jordan Peterson, although there is a lot of unnecessary intellectualism, is you can see the man in real time working through problems. And I like that about Jordan Peterson. Like as he talks, it's almost the way his brain is processing information, which is why it's kind of a little bit sporadic and kind of all over the place. And because he's thinking through the problem, I like that. That's interesting to me. And I also do like with Andrew Huberman, even though it has some of that unnecessary intellectualism, um, I like that it's supporting, like we're looking at the factual data, because in today's society, there's so much driven by bias, by opinion, by ideology, by dogma. And he comes in with the data and says, no, here's what alcohol is doing to your body and brain. Well, but it's cool. That's fine. Whatever. Like if you need it for stress relief or whatever, then fine. But here's the data. Like, no opinion about it. Here's the facts. And I like that for certain topics. So it's a long way of saying, even though I struggle with some of their messaging, Jordan Peterson and Andrew Huberman would be great additions to the podcast. Mike Rowe, and then another, in the political realm, I would love to have DeSantis on and Trump. I'm a little disappointed, admittedly, that Ron DeSantis isn't getting the nod. He backed out of the race several weeks ago. I'm a little disappointed. I think he would have made a great president. He's a great governor. I think he would have made a great president. And I get so frustrated because, you'll hear like, why can't we hire, or why can't we elect, like, this is the best we have. Why can't we elect, guys who are good people who would do a good job? We had somebody and we screwed it up.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, Trump, he's an this, that, and this. Like, yeah, the guy who could have done a good job, who's proven time and time again in the state of Florida that he can run a political office and move an agenda forward. We said no. I don't understand. I think it's just the reality TV thing that we're interested in, like Biden, Trump, season 4 or whatever it is. And so we're just attracted to the drama. But I would be interested in having DeSantis and Trump. And then I was thinking it would be cool to have them together if I could even manage that. I don't know if I could handle that, but that would be cool. And then the last person I put on here was Rogan. Of course, he's on everybody's list. So there's 4 or 5 or 6 people that I'd love to have on.
Cool.
Anybody you'd add to the list, Skip?
Man. No,
Sorry,
I mean, those are all the ones that I would think that you would have on the list. I mean, I would love to, I could listen to and watch Peterson process data all day. You know what I mean? I love that guy. So, very interesting. No, there's a couple guys I like, but I don't know if you'd want them on. That they're a little rough on the edges, so
who is it? I'm all about it.
I think Theo Vaughn would be a blast.
Oh, yeah. He'd be great
to talk to. I think, who's my, I always talk about him, Ryan Hummingston. I think I told you to.
Oh, is he a fitness guy?
You should reach out to him. Yeah. Yeah. Super rough on the edges on his fitness videos, but highly intelligent, but funny to listen to.
I listened to a couple of videos. I'm like, is this guy funny? But maybe I didn't give it a fair shake because you sent me that. I'm like, oh, this is funny. Yeah, maybe I didn't see the funny one. I don't know.
You got to watch some more. Some more.
All right. I'll check it out. I probably didn't give him a fair shake.
Yeah, there you go. Come on. So then that way you can show Ryan that you're so funny.
If you guys have other suggestions, let me know because I'm all about it. And he was asking, am I actively doing anything? Oh, yeah. We reach out to these guys and we ask for connections from other podcasts they've been on. So I've got a list. In fact, the couple you just told me, I wrote down on the list myself. What do you think about Huberman? You said a little bit about Jordan Peterson. One thing I like about Jordan Peterson is I love his vocabulary. Like his vocabulary makes you think about concepts in a new way. I do like that. It might be an old concept that all of us know, but the way he says it, you're like, oh shit, I never thought about it. Yeah. I never thought about it like that. And I love his vocabulary.
Yeah. No, I love Huberman's solid. I love what you said though, because it's so true. Right. And that if something's right, it gets overly explained, which could be valuable to some people. And then in some cases, it's just noise. And a perfect example of that is, him in the interview he did with Jocko, right? So he talks about Jocko's day, right? And if you ask Jocko, said, hey, what does your typical day and your workout look like? Jocko would be like, I do these things because it's good for me.
Right.
Period. And then Huberman spends the next 2 hours explaining the science around why Jocko's right. You know, it's like, did I need to know all that? Probably not. But there's stuff that he shares that I'm like, rocks my world. You know, like a key thing was sunglasses. Have you heard that episode?
No.
Where you increase your chances of being sunburned by wearing sunglasses when the sun is out.
Right. Because you go out in the sun more. I mean,
and you're telling your brain that it's overcast and your skin adjusts based upon the brightness and UV rays. And so by wearing sunglasses, you're sending the wrong message to the brain. I think that's fascinating. Like those kind of things that he shares, I'm like, no way.
But the concept, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, I never heard that episode, but right. Like, yeah, because you expose yourself to the sun more because you think you're good. Like, it took me a half a second to explain that. Like, we all know that.
True.
Like, I might not have ever thought about that, but as soon as you said it,
to understand the principle. Yeah.
As soon as you say it, look, I'm just saying, like, it's interesting. And I'm interested in how his mind works because he's brilliant. And the other thing I like about Andrew Huberman is he looks the part, which means that dude, I saw that guy with his shirt off. Yeah. I think he went and ran with Cam Hanes. I'm like, damn, for a scientist, I don't even know what his neurologist or what, I don't know. Yeah. No, he's got like a medical degree, I think. And then I saw him like,
he's a neuroscientist.
Yeah. This guy's legit. Like, he's actually following his advice. So that's one thing I really respect about him as well. So yeah.
Real Ones. Who's that? That does the Real Ones podcast.
John Bergenthal. Is that his name? John Punisher.
Bernthal.
Something like that.
I'm writing his name down. His rawness. I love how raw he is.
The one that he did with Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf, whatever that guy's name is. That's one of the best conversations I've ever heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. He has an ability to get people to get real raw on his podcast, which I love. Yeah.
Agreed. Cool.
All right. Cody Gould, you can't change anyone's opinion of you, but how do you deal with this as you are trying to evolve? The world carries a people never change mentality, and so many people will always see me as the person I was before and not the man I'm working to become. I know they will see the change eventually, but the negativity is enough some days to make me want to give up, as a lot of people in my life, including family, continually tell me I won't ever change. How do you deal with this when you're working on the man you know you need to be?
I love this question. I love this question because this is something a lot of guys deal with. I don't agree with the premise, first and foremost. You said you can't get people to change their opinion of you. That's not true. Of course, they'll change their opinion about you. Like you even pointed out later in the question. You said, I know it'll take time. Well, there you go. So you just disproved the premise of the question. You can get people to change their opinion of you. It takes time, but that shouldn't be your motive anyways. This is the problem with the question, not the question, but the idea, the thought process that you're working through right now is you're considering giving up because your motive is to get people to change their opinion of you. And then when they don't, because it takes longer than you feel like they should, as you can control somebody, then you're going to throw in the towel because, they're not doing what they should be doing. Change your motive, Cody. Your motive shouldn't be, I want to get this person to change their perspective of me. Your motive should be, I want to be a better human being. And if they change their perspective of me, great. And if they don't, so what? I'm not doing this for other people anyways. So what is your motive? Is it to convince everybody around you how great you are or that you can get better? Or is it to actually get better and improve? Now, having the support around you is a good tool for you to continue to move forward. If you have somebody in your corner cheering you on saying, bro, you're doing such a good job, that's going to be better than having somebody in your corner saying, you're a horrible piece of shit. I remember who you were before.
Yeah.
So it's not the motive, it's just a tool. And in order to do that, you have to find different people. You're right. There's going to be people in your corner that there's people that know me from high school and they're like, I knew you in high school. Bro, that was 25 years ago. Of course, I was a little douchebag in high school because I was 17 years old. I'm still a lot of like that at 42 years old. But look, if that's your perspective of me from, 25 years ago, yeah, like I really don't need you in my corner. So find different people. You're one of those, Kip. Like, we played each other in sports, but we didn't know each other in high school. Mm-mm. So you didn't ever know that side of me. You know who I am and who I'm working to become, and we have this connection. And you're somebody in my corner, as I in yours, who are supporting and encouraging and saying what needs to be said in a loving, empathetic way. Those are the people that you need in your life. So start being selective about who you have in your life. The saying often goes, what is it? Never a prophet in your own land or something like that. Right. Because people know you from who you used to be or the mistakes you used to make. And so just find different people. Cody, that's why you're in Iron Council. You can go to business luncheons. You can go where successful people are and insert yourself into the environment. And they know nothing about the past you. They know who you are today. And that gives you a great opportunity to A, start over, and B, find supportive people who will be in your corner as you progress along your journey.
Yeah, I like it. I want to share a message I got. I got a message on Instagram last week from a guy, and he said that he was reaching the end, breaking point. I'm making some assumptions, maybe suicidal, whatever. Living in his car, life fell apart, just everything is dire. Grabs the podcast for whatever reason. I don't know how he found or whatever, listens to an episode, shoots an email, and he's like, thank you. Right. I'm going to become the man that I need to become. Right. And I felt inclined to, not just give him a fist bump and like, you got this, right? But I actually sent him an audio file. And what I told him was, I truly believe we can recreate, or we're constantly inventing who we are. And the man that he was yesterday, he can choose not to be that man today. I believe it in the depths of my soul. That's up to us to do. And I told him, and don't wait to become some man, a year from now. Just be that person today. How you show up today, be that person. Now, are you going to make mistakes? Absolutely. Are you going to be perfect? Absolutely. Do you want to be a better version of yourself tomorrow than you were today? Absolutely. But just be that person today. And I hear that a little bit in Cody's, right? Working on becoming, right? No. Just be.
Become. Yeah.
Become. Be that man today. That's it. And when people in your life remind you of the dipshit you were, then you say, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry about that. Now, you don't excuse it. You don't make excuses. You own it and you go, yeah, I was sorry about that. And then you keep being that person today. And I've done this, right? I had an ex-wife that she did not want to let go of who I was. And every single time she reminded me of how I, quote unquote, ruined our family and destroyed it, I just said, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. And then I just kept trying to become or be the man I know I should have been right now in this moment today, and just keep repeating that.
It's powerful. It's also an interesting way to shut down the people who are chirping at you. Cause I have people on social media be like, you're an asshole. It's like, yeah, I know. I try not to be, but I definitely fall short every single day. Or I'll say, man, and you're only seeing the best of me. Imagine if you
Yeah.
saw the rest of me.
Yeah.
Like you
You're
start
like,
saying
trust
stuff
me,
like
I
that.
know.
Yeah. And everybody else around me knows. Like you say stuff like that, people just stop. They're like, oh, okay. Like he knows. Or I had one guy one time tell me, he's like, you're such, what did he? He's like, you're like a poser or something. You're a fraud or whatever. You fall short of what you say. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Every single day I fall short of the ideal of who I want to be. I don't know. What's your point? Nothing. Because
Yeah.
you just own it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know. I'm a human. I fall short. I'm not great. There's a question I ask myself quite often that has been a powerful question for me. And it's along the lines of what you talked about of being versus becoming. And it's this: how would the man I want to be show up in this situation? So earlier I talked about missing the gym. How would the man I want to be show up? What would he do? Well, he'd go to the gym after this conversation. That's what he would do.
Yeah.
So that's what I need to do. Or if you're frustrated with, you talk about with your ex, and I have that situation at times too. How would the man I want to be converse with her in spite of the frustrations? Well, he would do this, this, and this. Good. Do that. It's just a great practice in conscious thinking, projecting out into the future about who you want to be and thinking about something other than what you currently are, and then using that as a litmus test for your behavior today.
Yeah. And after all, it's all we have today. It's all we have really anyway.
Yep. Right.
In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
All right. We're going to hop over to Facebook, facebook.com.
Yeah, let's take maybe one or two more, Kip.
/order of man. John.
Sorry, interrupted you.
Pedroza. No, you're fine. John Pedroza. So I've spent the last year and a half in Zehof, Poland. And this guy's like, he's like, oh, I purposely added that because I want to see Kip stumble. So you know what, John, take that.
But
I did read ahead, so
I was
going to
say he gave me the pronunciation of it.
Full disclosure. Thanks, John. All right. 2.5 years before that, he was in Afghanistan. I'm coming back to visit in February. So he's coming back to the US.
Okay.
Looking at the news from the US, it seems absolutely insane these days. Is this a case where the media is blowing things out of proportion, or are things really that crazy in the US? Love the show. Longtime fan. I found Order of Man in the darkest time of my life, and it has helped me immensely. Thank you and Kip for all that you do for the men everywhere.
Well, first, we're honored to be able to do it. To even be in the position to be able to do it is something that I'm really grateful for. So thank you. Yes and yes. Yes, the media is blowing things out of proportion. And yes, we live in crazy, crazy times. And you know what? Brace yourself, because then it's going to get worse. I'm going to get a little political here. If Biden gets reelected, it's going to get significantly worse. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. You think it's bad now? Me and a friend of mine, Rick Trimmer, went to lunch the other day, and he bought like a salad with some chicken on it. It was $17. $17 for a salad, lettuce with a little bit of chicken on it. There's inflation for you. You think it's bad today? Wait till there's no reelection bid for Biden. Because right now he's got a little bit of concern because he has to get reelected. If he gets reelected again, you're not concerned about getting reelected. You think the border crisis is rough now? Wait till there's no consequence. It's going to get bad, guys. Like, go out and vote for conservative values. And I don't get political a whole lot here. You guys can do what you want to do, but I'm telling you, if we want to steer the direction of this country in the right way, we can't vote for this modern leftist ideology. It's antithetical to what we stand for and antithetical to what men are about. And I'll put my stamp on that for sure. So it's going to get crazy, especially in an election year. Look, I know even to again, political with Trump, people are like, oh, he's a horrible human being. Yeah, I know. Like, we all know he's not a moral person.
And highly polarizing, unfortunately.
We know that.
Presidential, just
right. I know that. But, I'm not going to say I don't care about that. I do care about that. But if you're saying that Biden is better on the moral high ground, I would say, think again. He presents differently, but definitely not a moral individual. What I care about in a president is policy. Yes, I would love to have a moral person in the Oval Office. I think the person that we could have had, we said we didn't want, as I referenced earlier, in the absence of morality, now I have to base my decision on policy. And under Trump, the direction of this country, the border being secured, inflation going down, booming and growing economy, foreign conflicts, less of an issue, a non-factor, frankly, at all. That's policy I can get behind. So in the spirit of the question, again, I'm getting a little political. I normally don't, but it's important we discuss this, especially in an election year. And that's the point of the answer is it's going to get crazy because we're in an election cycle right now. And it's a very serious one. It's a very, very important election cycle. Probably the most important election cycle in my lifetime, for sure. So I think this is important we discuss. And also, yes, the media blows things out of proportion because they want our eyeballs. So you have to collect information from different sources and exercise some discernment and think critically about these things. All in all, I still believe that America is a great place to live. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I think the people here generally are great people on both sides of the aisle for the most part. We have extremists on both sides and people that I can't stand on both sides. But I think if you find deviations on one side or the other, it's not that far off, really. But yeah, I think this is a crucial election cycle that could dictate a lot of the direction of this country for the next several decades or century. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. Welcome back to the US when you show up.
Yeah. Move to a conservative place.
A good state. Yeah.
Stay out of the coastal cities and the big cities and the Democrat run cities. And I think you'll have a better experience.
Yeah. Austin Chamberlain, what are some lessons that you've learned in marketing? What are some good metrics for measuring how well it's working? For context, I'm teaching firearm classes and I'm marketing primarily through social media.
Yeah, good metrics are sales. That's it. Are you selling?
In the grand scheme of things, yeah.
If you sold 20 spots this time and you sold 25 the next time, you did something better than you did the first time. Figure out what it is. That's the key, right? That's the key to marketing, because it's hard to isolate what exactly worked. Because if you're talking about selling firearm courses and you sell one in January and you sell 20 spots, and then you have one in, let's say, June, and you sell 40 spots, did you do a better job marketing, or are people more interested in being outside in June than they are in January? So that's going to give you some feedback. And the way you do that is you ask, hey, what is it about this one? We had another event, but you signed up for this one. Why? Oh, because the kids are out of school and it makes more sense, or I was going to be here anyways, or the weather's better, or January, we're just kind of getting the new year. We're busy. So you start to see what's going on. So I think one of the things you can do from a marketing standpoint is get who your demographic is, get to know them really, really well. And there's tools like Facebook, Instagram, these social media tools, YouTube, where you can actually go down and break down the demographic. And Facebook does a phenomenal job on this because they want to advertise. It's a big advertising platform, really, is what it is. If we strip everything else away, it's an ad agency. They just have a medium that's never been introduced to us before, up until 15 years ago or whatever it's been, 20 years, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. But you can get the demographics and then figure out, and then you actually ask the people who come, why they come, what they're interested in, what they're here for, even what verbiage they like. Cause you'll start to notice, we noticed it in the Iron Council. We do surveys and we asked guys, what was their biggest reason for joining? And I thought it was going to be accountability. It wasn't accountability. Do you remember what it was, Kip?
Yeah, it was like brotherhood or being around like-minded people.
And that was the verbiage. Yeah. The verbiage was brotherhood. So guess what words I use in my marketing? Brotherhood. Why would I say anything else? That's what they said they're here for. So of course, that's the method I'm going to use. So I would say, again, get to know your audience, figure out where they are, figure out who they are, figure out what motivates, scares, and entices them, and customize your marketing message, whether it's on Instagram or doing videos or a podcast like this or Facebook or YouTube, whatever your medium is. Figure out a way to communicate a message that they want to hear.
Yeah. And for you guys that would love to join us in the future, but are unable to due to our enrollment not being open until this February, you can sign up for our Battle Ready program. Go to orderofman.com/battle ready. This is a program where you can actually walk through the battle plan process. I think you get weekly emails in regards to what that looks like, and you kind of get a guided process. We believe that guys that do the Battle Ready program even sets you up even for quicker success when you do join us in the Iron Council. And if you want to learn more about the Iron Council, you can go to orderofman.com/Iron Council. As always, you can connect with Mr. Mickler on Twitter and X, or Twitter and Instagram, or X and Instagram. Geez, I got to update my notes. Or whatever it is, on the socials at Ryan Mickler. That's Michler on the last name. Anything else?
Just
Uprising.
a couple little, Uprising, May 2nd through the 5th, orderman.com/uprising. And we're not actually open until March. Just want to throw that out there in the Iron Council.
That's right. Sorry.
March. And the Battle Ready program is a series of emails over 30 days that you'll receive. So you're going to get one every day or two, depending on what the assignment is. And that's the cool thing with this, guys, is that you're actually going to get assignments, and they're not lengthy. They're not going to take all day. One might take 10 minutes, and another one might take you 30 minutes. But we give you some space and the time you need. But the idea is that when you're done after 30 days, you've got this beautifully crafted plan for the next quarter of your life, and you have the very specific actions required to go out and implement this. I don't want you to have some beautifully crafted plan if you're not exercising it. I'd rather have you an ugly plan that you're actually doing. So we're going to help you create a beautifully crafted plan that you're actually implementing. That's what we're about. So check that out at orderman.com/battery. Kip, I really enjoyed this conversation. We had some really, really thoughtful and interesting questions today. So I appreciate the guys who asked.
Yeah, I agree. We're always appreciative of you guys participating, right, in making these conversations available for all of us to consider, right? Us as well as those listening. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. You've got your marching orders, and we'll be back for our Friday field notes on Friday. Until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.